Hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Happy Friday. Great to have you here. We are just going to wait a couple of minutes for the room to fill up, and then we'll get started. If you're joining us, then say hello in the chat. Please let us know where you're joining from. According to the registrations, we have people joining from all over the world, pretty much. So let's hear it. I'm joining from London in the UK. Who else have we got on? Hi, Anand. Hello. From the US. Hi, Mark. Hello, Sandra. Happy Friday, everybody. Hello. Good to see you. We've got people from all over the world, from the Netherlands, from Czech Republic, Malawi, from South Africa. Oh, fantastic.
Lovely.
All right. Let's just give it one more minute and then we'll get started. See, we're filling up pretty quickly. Hope everyone's enjoying the funky soundtrack we have for today's webinar. It's giving a Friday feeling. All right. I think let's make a start, shall we? All right. So welcome, everyone. So today we're going to talk to you about the latest version of Lenses 5.5 and also beyond to our next releases. So we're going to cover a few things today. It's going to be a productive Friday session. We're going to talk about how the latest release is going to help you with data integration and software governance around Kafka. And also as a bonus, give you a glimpse into the wider journey with Lenses. Just a little bit of housekeeping. So please don't be shy. Ask us questions. Share thoughts out loud by raising your hand and one of the hosts will come along and enable you to speak. Or alternatively, if you can post in the chat as well, and one of the team will answer your question live or respond to you there in the chat. We're going to have 3 main topics to cover here, and we'll pause at the end of each topic to answer your questions. And here on the slide, we've got a list of what we're going to cover over the next hour. It's going to be a productive Friday. As I said, we're going to show you how you can use Lenses to begin integrating your Kafka resources directly with your CI/CD toolchain, how you can organize and prioritize consumer groups and offsets more effectively, how you can expand your data integration with 3 new sync connectors that we're launching. And as a bonus, we're going to show you how you can, in the near future, address a multi-cloud, vendor-agnostic world of Kafka and data streaming. Very exciting lineup for the day. But first, some introductions. I'm Alex, your host. I'm on the Lenses marketing team. You might have seen an email or 2 coming from me inviting you to this webinar or see me on the community Slack channels. Hello to those of you I haven't met. Maybe I've seen a couple of you before. Always keen to hear from you on your experience with Kafka, what you're up against and how we create better content. Don't be a stranger. Please come and say hello. We've got Adamos here who heads up our product team and is going to be talking to you about some product developments around multi-Kafka and our connectors later on. But first up, we've got Guillaume, our CEO, who's going to be talking to you about GitOps and our new features on our roadmap around that. Guillaume, take it away.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Thank you, Alex. Great to see so many people. I'm just looking through the attendees, lots of familiar faces. So for anyone that's that I know, a big help. Anyone that's new, welcome to the Lenses family. And welcome to also a really exciting era that we're entering, what is being termed as the 5th industrial revolution. And from the discussions I'm having with you, some of you are existing customers, but across the whole industry, there's a massive transformation. Core business processes being transformed to be responding and reacting to real-time events, fully automated, and increasingly based on what we've seen, especially in the last 12 months, driven by AI. And if we think about the kind of the journey that you typically take to streaming is, I'm sure many on the call would have started from data analytic workloads. And these kind of workloads are as relevant today as they have been over the last 5 to 10 years. But if you think about the challenges with that, you're often talking about a few dozens of end users that need self-service access to real-time data to be able to deploy those workloads. And there's a chasm that you have to jump where your business starts developing new real-time services. These might be services on the periphery of your core business, pricing engine, fraud detection, a new real-time invoicing. And this is jumping the chasm of having dozens of users needing access to Kafka to hundreds of users and needing access to Kafka. And if we think about kind of the typical scenario of what happens when you have this, you have this backlog of services that need to be either developed or modernized to real time. And the gatekeepers to those applications and systems being modernized, it's actually not the engineers developing it. It's actually the platform engineering team that need to ensure that those workloads are migrated and correctly transferred and rolled out into production. The trouble is you've got such a big backlog that it doesn't scale when you have a small platform engineering team, and you might have just modernized and migrated a few applications. Ultimately, often lead to friction in your business where you're trying to get more of these applications live, but you just can't because you need to ensure the platform is healthy and the teams are productive. Now, of course, one of the answers to that is just scale out that platform engineering team. Throw bodies at the problem. But ultimately, that really isn't scalable either, because there's just not enough people you can throw in that centralized team to support that number of engineers that are modernizing these systems. And that cost of effectively is going to be passed on to the different services that want to migrate and modernize, and ultimately to your business. So that's not really an answer. The third option is to just remove the wall completely, have a free for all, take away the governance, allow anyone to deploy anything and modernize and roll out to production. But again, that's also going to hit some problems. You're going to have outages. You're going to lead to poor productivity. Your platform is going to become a swamp, and you're going to be breaching compliance. So that's why we're here at Lenses. We offer the leading developer experience to offer your end users, if you're a developer or you're a platform engineer, self-service access to be able to explore data in Kafka, build applications, deploy those applications, and maintain them without dependence on centralized teams. And we're really proud to have worked with some of the biggest companies in the world that are taking this massive leap on this Kafka journey, on this streaming journey. But if we think about where and the chances are that most people on this call, if you've been using Lenses, you're somewhere in that middle of that journey, those new real-time services that I've talked about. But I hate to say there's a new chasm that we have to jump. And this chasm is where we're migrating our core business applications. The services that are fundamental to your business need to be modernized. These might be e-commerce platform if you're in retail, core banking services if you're in banking, fulfillment systems, logistics, supply chains. A single minute of downtime would have a catastrophic impact on your business. And as a result, you have new practices that you need to conform to, corporate practices, the same software delivery practices that the rest of your business and your rest of your services has conformed to over the last few decades, now applies to your Kafka workloads too. And this requires really industrializing your data platform to a new level. And you can categorize it in 4 different things. And the first one is around the delivery must fit within a CI/CD practice, the same as I mentioned as the rest of your software delivery. And Damos is going to talk a lot about this as part of our 5.5 overview. The second one is around data security. The same security that you apply to your data warehouse or your databases and your other workloads needs to apply to your Kafka workloads. You need to ensure you automate as much as possible to ensure you reduce risk and you reduce cost. And a huge topic right now, something that we've talked a lot about in the last 6 months here at Lenses, is you need to have robust backup and restore practices. So there's a lot that we need to do. There's a lot more that we can help you with. And with that, we're really excited to present a few new things in the product that we're releasing today and as well as our roadmap for the coming months that's going to address many of these challenges. And Damos is the best person in this company and on this planet probably to introduce you to what we've been cooking. Damos?
Thanks very much, Guillaume. Following up from what Guillaume has been saying, how can we empower the modern Kafka use to become easier and more productive? And we have three big pieces that we're betting on, but we're going to start with number one, which is all about driving things as a proper developer experience, driving things as code. So what we're going to talk about is how Lenses and 5.5 can help you integrate your Git workflow with now managing Kafka resources as code. So if we go to the next slide. Right, so with 5.5, we are announcing our first official step in the full GitOps journey. Where we're starting is with managing connectors as code. We chose connectors because this is repeatedly what we've been hearing from you, our customer, that is the toughest thing of having a standard sort of developer lifecycle for your connectors, not just clicking and pointing to create one, but being able to fully promote them with your pull requests and your Git. But that's not all. As we start this journey with connectors as code, we are building alongside our customers a standard of how you can describe all these Kafka resources, not just connectors, topics, the Lenses SQL processors, everything as code in an open standard, because we want this to be a win for everyone. And no matter whether you choose to use Lenses or not, the moment that you describe your resources with this standard, then you know that it's a portable way of managing those. If we go to the next one, so what are we introducing with 5.5? Up till now, with Lenses, you had a very powerful UI that you could fully manage your connectors, which means apart from, of course, seeing the ones that are running and being able to operate them, it was also a developer experience where you can go, click, create a new connector, configure it, and it will go and deploy it in your favorite Kafka environment. That is great, and especially it's great maybe in a local environment or in your development environment, but it's not ideal in your production environment. Because usually in a modern sort of software development life cycle, you experiment on the lower environments, but then once you solidify what you want, an automated process that will take that, run it through some checks, and then deploy it safely, promote it to production. So now with Lenses 5.5, what we're introducing is this secret ingredient missing from all this piece is the ability to express these connectors that you might have started with creating them manually in a development environment. You can create them now and express them in YAML. So whether you do it through the UI or not, Lens will always be able to produce a YAML equivalent of a connector that you can then put in your Git repo, have a pull request, and then integrate with the Lenses automation through our CLI or API, and basically have a fully automated CI/CD pipeline that will promote your dev connector to the staging environment or to a production environment. So finally, you have a great way of doing proper sort of CI/CD of your connectors as code. But that's not all. That's the first stepping stone towards a full GitOps approach. And if we think of what is the concept of GitOps, you might have heard of it or it might sound new to you. The whole concept of GitOps is the idea that whatever you're managing, be it a connector, a topic, an application, first, you need to be able to express it as code. Second, to put it in a Git repository. And third, to use the concepts that we're familiar with Git pull requests, merging changes in, as a way of expressing the desired state of a given resource. Maybe you want to introduce a change to a connector, you issue a pull request of the change, it gets reviewed, pulled in, and maybe pulled to a particular branch that points to production. At that point, what happens in the GitOps world is that you're describing the desired state that you want your production environment to have. The missing piece here for a full GitOps experience is the thing that is going to be monitoring that branch for any incoming changes in the desired state. And this is what Lenses in 6.plus is going to become, a full Kafka GitOps operator that you simply point it at the Git repository. Lenses will facilitate fully creating pull requests through the UI and being able to monitor changes and merges so that then it takes your desired state, that new connector that you introduced in the branch, and it will make sure to take the right actions to bring your production environment to that state, which means potentially deploy that new connector. And that way you can have sort of the experience that some of you might be familiar in the Kubernetes world with Argo CD. Now you can have it with anything Kafka, regardless of whether you use Kubernetes or not. So any Kafka, any cloud. And with that in mind, let's switch over to a little demo so we can show you the first steps that we've been taking towards that vision. So hopefully you can see my screen with our old and good old familiar lenses. So I'm going to switch over to the connector side. So what we've changed here is that now when you're going to create a connector, you have a few more options. In the classic sense, you can still go here and configure your S3 source connector. You can give it a name, my connector, and the UI will always guide you with documentation. But at the same time, we've introduced this new tab, which basically now uses this standard that we're introducing, the YAML standard, of expressing this connector as code. And this allows you the power of both worlds, a powerful UI that hopefully it will increasingly guide you on how to set up this connector. But at the same time, you can always switch and see its code equivalent. So I can go here, download it potentially if I want to put it to Git right now, or I can even upload a YAML directly. And then once I filled it in, I can go and deploy it. That's one way of doing it. But maybe you have a friend that's already, I think, let me just switch environments really quickly. Give me a sec. All right. That's one way, but imagine maybe a colleague of yours tried a connector out and they wanted to share. The way they would do it now is really easy. So you go to your favorite connector and you just go here to the code. You simply download it. So you have your YAML. And maybe if I am the one that got that YAML and I want to recreate that connector, I can simply say configure as code, and I can come here and upload this YAML. And that's it. And I can go ahead and deploy it. So I can give it maybe another name. And there we go. So it's that simple. And this is, again, this first steps towards the idea that anything that the Lenses UI can help you manage, create, guide you into creating, there's always an equivalent code counterpart that you can download, you can edit, you can upload, you can share. Let me see if we have. Yep, I think that's the first steps towards GitOps journey. And that's not all. So we're starting today with connectors. So that allows you to manage all these connectors as code and easily integrate it with your Git and CI/CD. But if I share back our slideshow, there we go. So with 5.5, we're introducing connectors as code with the power of YAML. And the idea that whatever you do with connectors, you can always express it as code. But what we're working on with 5.6 is to cover the whole spectrum of your Kafka resources, which means that you'll start seeing topics as code, schemas as code, SQL processors as code, alerts as code, the whole ecosystem. And once we've covered that and we've solidified our standard that we're going to share with our customers, the next step would be with Lenses 6 and onwards. We want to bring that operator fully GitOps approach that Lenses will automatically hook to your Git repository and will be able to take the actions on your behalf to bring a production to a given state or any other environment for that matter.
Nice. So some significant developments. Maybe we just pause there because I can see a question in the Q&A. Will I be able to put my production Lenses instances into a read-only mode with changes only coming via Git?
Yep, that's the idea in how we're planning for the fully GitOps approach. So once we've reached that parity that all of these resources can be expressed as code, and we have the operator in our Lenses that can constantly monitor Git, at that point, Lenses will be able to allow your admins to choose whether Git is the only source of truth. So that means that then the UI will still allow you to plan changes. So let's say you want to introduce a connector, it will still allow you to configure it and create that YAML. But instead of deploying directly the connector, it will actually save that YAML into a branch, open a pull request, and wait for that pull request to be merged. And that way, it safeguards that the only source of truth will always be a branch in Git. You cannot do any manual changes unless you've explicitly told lenses to allow that. Nice.
Nice.
I-
We have a couple of more questions. You're handling the
Yep.
follow-up question?
Sorry. Yeah. Can you explain what exactly happens during state reconciliation? Yes. So state reconciliation is like a fancy term for basically your Git is saying something, but your environment is saying something else. So if you're in your Git, you're saying that I want an S3 sync connector that is writing to bucket red, but somehow in your environment, it writes to bucket blue. That is the difference between the states. And since we're saying in a GitOps world, the truth is what sits in your Git, so it should be bucket red. What lenses will do is it will bring that in, do the difference, and understand that, oh, there's a difference between the buckets, and then make the changes to the connector so that it switches from the blue bucket to the red. So that kind of diffing, understanding the difference of what is desired versus what is actual and what steps need to be made, that is what is called the state reconciliation. All right, next one. For the Open Kafka Resources YAML specification, were there any considerations around existing specifications? Yes, that's a very good question. And the answer is yes. We've gone and scouted for as many specs as we can find, and there are many. But fundamentally, there are two major ones. There's the Streamzy one and the Confluent one. And it turns out that they're not that different. It's only like minor changes. So the spec that we will be introducing, as we said, it will be open, and it will be extremely similar to Streamzy and Confluent. For now, we've followed the Streamzy way, and fundamentally, the way that we want to do it is we want to keep the common structure and then have dedicated spaces, probably under metadata, that will allow our customers to introduce cataloging features like key value specifications or even lenses specific ones. But the core will be the standard that it will feel very familiar to you if you've already dealt either with Streamzy or the Confluent spec. And the whole point of introducing a third spec is that hopefully we want to encourage our customers and our users to make it the spec. There's no reason to have that many because they're all like similar. Let's come up with one that stays. Now, next one is Lenses 6. Can it work well with on-prem Kafka based on Linux VMs? Yes, as always, our commitment as a product is that any cloud, any Kafka, and when we say any Kafka, it means even outside of cloud on-prem. Lenses will remain a software, which means that it will work with any kind of infrastructure, whether you're fully on-prem, fully on cloud, or even hybrid. So Lenses 6 will still support that. Then, do we need to have a separate account to Git? Where is the Git repo located? Very good question. You will have full control of the Git repo. Lenses will not have an opinion on where your Git repo sits because we want this to be secure. So you bring your own Git repository with your own accounts. The way that Lenses will integrate is that each user will have a profile section, and there you will put your Git credentials, or if you're using GitHub or Bitbucket. So Lenses will integrate to your Git repos on your behalf. And we will have automated accounts through service accounts that will be doing the state reconciliation in the CI/CD. So it's all like standard practice, no surprises as you'd expect. We don't want to tie you into a corner. You bring your own choice of Git repos and we will work well with it. All right. So thank you very much for the questions. Really good questions. Let's carry on a little bit because that's not all we have to talk about. Remember, we have three things that we're going to talk about. Number two is integrating data, bringing data in and out of Kafka. It is surprising but in some sense it's not, that still one of the biggest hurdles with real-time streaming and Kafka is to just bring the data in, just to integrate. And what we've seen is that there's such a huge demand of being able to do it in a flexible way, to have a choice on how you do it, and in an open source way, which would allow you to not be tied into rising costs, especially in the economic climate that we're in. So, as a reminder, it so happens that we as Lenses started as a pet project, but now it has a full life of its own. We are one of the biggest contributors to open source Kafka connectors. and we have quite a vibrant community. And the great thing is that we're doubling down on our open source connectors. You can see that our Git repo is quite popular, and we hope that you'll help it reach its next stage with 1,000+ stars. Maybe we can give you a little gift as well, if you can help us. But today we're announcing 3 more new connectors. And these connectors, again, they come with a seal of quality from Lenses, but also our commitment to open source. These connectors are and will be open source. So what we're introducing today is A, source connector for Azure Event Hubs, B, an HTTP sync connector, and C, a source connector for GCP storage, GCS, which can also work if you have been following our steps with S3. It works with the same trick for being able to restore backups because it can understand this envelope format that we've introduced. Great stuff. These connectors are not just pet projects anymore. These connectors are designed for real production workloads, and they are used by customers of ours and with real use cases. And that's not all. We actually have a broad map of connectors that either are already available, so you can see them at the top. These are all connectors that you can go download and use today. These are the connectors that we're actively developing to introduce, but we have a whole lifeline of more connectors to bring in. So we'd be very interested to get your feel on what you think would be most important. For example, over at Kafka Summit, we're asking people around, and it seemed that Apache Iceberg got quite a bit of attention. Yeah, feel free to post on the chat what you would like to see as a connector, whether as a source or a sync. But what our goal is to really grow the community and offer a much wider choice, an open choice of modernizing their platform into bridging the legacy systems by bringing data more easily to Kafka and potentially either moving directly to the cloud or fostering hybrid workloads on-prem and cloud joined together. Recap, what's new in 5.5? We just showed the 3 new connectors that, again, they are fully open source. So hopefully both you can rely on them because you can trust the source code, but also it comes with no strings attached. You can manage the cost by yourself. We introduced the first step in our GitOps journey with connectors as code and how the ability to represent things as YAML allows you with our automation to do easy CI/CD. But there are a few more tricks in the bag that we want to show you. But before I do, let me check if there's any more questions. Okay, there's something about Couchbase. Okay, maybe we can touch up on those at the end. So let me just stop for a sec. And I'm going to share my environment again. So new tricks in the bag. One of the classic feedback points that we've heard from customers is that, especially in development or when you're troubleshooting, you're trialing something, you found this particular message that causes your application to behave in a certain way. And all you need to do to test your application is to really just replay that message. You could, in the past, of course, go to SQL Studio, insert it from there, or maybe you could go to insert messages and maybe copy paste that message. That was good. But wouldn't it be great if you could just have a single key, a single sort of button that you can press and just presto, it's there. So now with 5.5, we have this little productivity gain that the moment you want to replay, again, based on your permissions, because everything is R-backed, you can just hit replay and that's it. It's gone in. So it's very handy when it comes to testing out topologies and pipelines. That's one little trick. Another thing that we've been hearing a lot is about, let me see, yes, consumers. What we've heard is that already the ability of Lenses to manage your consumer groups, where you can edit the consumer offsets, you can turn things, go back and forth, is already very powerful. But what happens when sometimes a consumer has to switch to different topics and because the old topics are not relevant anymore? What tends to happen is that the information about the old topics still hangs around and it just pollutes your list of offset locations, and people wanted to clean it up. So now this is possible. So if you know that you want to clean up a particular offset that, of a topic that is not used anymore for your consumer, you can come and delete it here. Or you can do it all in one go. As with changing offsets, you can say, I need to just remove that old topic that I'm not reading from anymore. I'm going to remove all the offset information there, or just wipe it out completely. Again, that's all about keeping your consumers clean, giving self-service to your application developers so that the platform team doesn't have to come and clean these things up. And of course, you can also come and delete the consumer group fully if you want to clean up because that consumer doesn't exist anymore. So all these nice little sort of productivity tricks. And then the final thing was around dead letter queues. So dead letter queues, which is usually the pattern used for maybe connectors or applications that they can't understand a particular message. A dead letter queue is usually a sort of topic, an output topic, where the application would just throw the messages that it cannot understand. That's great to have that pattern sometimes, but what most of our customers were interested in is receiving an alert when as soon as a message comes in, because they need to know it's in a special case. So now you can easily do that thanks to our data production alerts. So if I head here to the data produced alerts, let's say that your dead letter queue is named like this, Smart Deal Queue. All you have to do is say that I want to be notified when I get at least one message, maybe every minute, and I'll send it to my PagerDuty. Maybe that's too much. Maybe I'll send it to my Slack. But that's all you need to do. You create the rule and off it goes. So now the moment that a message arrives in your dead letter queue, you'll get immediately notified. Again, nice little trick, but quite powerful at the point of having a peace of mind that you don't need to go looking at this dead letter queue topic every 5 minutes manually. All right, good stuff. Now let me head back to our slides. Okay. Right. Alex, if you want to summarize it for us.
Yeah. So in summary, I think lots of amazing stuff happening here. We've got 3 brand new open source connectors. So we've got Azure Event Hub Source, HTTP Sync, and GCS for backup and restore. And then more connectors in the pipeline. So if you have a request or an upvote, I saw a couple of comments in the chat already for requests for Kafka to Kafka for Couchbase. So thanks for that. If anyone else has any more suggestions or connectors you'd like to see, please reach out. Additional 5.5 features as well, productivity hacks to help you supercharge your productivity in Kafka. We saw the replay of messages in a click, how you can organize offsets and also receive alerts on dead letter queues as well.
And I just
Feature packed.
remembered that I forgot one little trick in the bag. Let me go back. So let me see. Something actually that I found very useful myself, and it was time that we brought it in. Classic scenario, you're in your topic and you have all these applications that are reading from your topic. You want to explore what's happening. So we're heading now to this consumer group that was reading from that topic. And you can see that this consumer group is running with 1, 2, 3, 4 instances, where each instance is reading, consuming data from that topic from different partitions. So there's quite a lot of things going on. This is all great, and you get the particular information of what is the exact location of each of these partitions that my group is reading. All good. Now, what happens is usually in troubleshooting, when your consumer has stopped reading and it's stuck, the classic scenario is a developer would come here, take this offset, and they just want to see that message. Why is it that my consumer failed there, got stuck? Unfortunately, in the old lenses, you'd have to copy that offset and then go back to the Explore screen and put it in and find it. Good news is you don't have to copy paste anymore. All of these things are linked. So you can just click and immediately you navigate there to that particular message and potentially to the next message. And this has to do with how offsets are dealt with. But the fundamental thing to remember here is that the moment that you see something that you want to explore, you can just click there directly and you navigate and you can see the message. And of course, the really cool thing is that everything is designed with a URL first approach. So if you want to share this with a colleague of yours, you can just copy paste the URL and it will take you back again to that direct message, which is really cool. The other things, of course, is that we've added some interesting documentation here to explain exactly what these things mean, the latest and the current offset, because sometimes they're surprising. I remember I was surprised when I got to the nitty-gritty details. And we will also let you know when these numbers mean that the partition is empty. So all of these sort of little nuances just to help you understand what's happening with your consumer. Yeah, that's another little neat trick that hopefully you'll find useful. All right, let me get back to our slides. Okay.
We just had a couple more
Yep.
questions in the Q&A, actually.
Let's go through them. What is the expected release for Lenses 6.x? So our current timeline is with Q4 for 2024. That's when we're hoping to give the big bang, and we're hoping that we can make certain announcements as well with the incoming current conference in the US. So stay tuned. We feel it's going to be really good. All right. And then Azure, this is the ADLS. That's the data lake, right? I believe. I think that might be in the works. I think we are aware of the data lake one. I think we're planning it. Yeah. Anand, are you actively using the data lake? I hope that's a yes. All right. Nice. Okay. So yeah.
We have a user requirement, so I just want to explore well ahead and have it in place before put it on production.
Yeah. So the way that our requirements gathering works for our connectors is that, of course, we have the open source community. So you're welcome to reach out to us with your needs. And then we have our customers that are signed up for our commercial support for our connectors. And usually, if they are with commercial support, we usually give a little bit more weight into their feedback and their requirements because they are fundamentally using actively our connectors. So if you are interested in bringing up feature requests and stuff, please reach out to us and yeah, we can definitely have a chat. All right. So we've talked about two things, but there's one more little or not so little thing that we want to talk about. And of course, it's the last bit, which is multi-Kafka in a multi-cloud world. As we've seen over the years of how the industry and the businesses have been progressing with all things streaming, trying to automate more, try to turn things into more real time, we've seen a huge explosion in scale. Everybody tends to start with one Kafka production environment, and then that becomes so big that eventually has to be broken down, maybe to different use cases, departments, all kinds of different ways of splitting it down and doing a devolution of this humongous centralized control, Kafka. And as these use cases grow, so does the complexity of being able to manage access of different projects, different applications, users, all across these Kafkas. And Lenses up till this moment has only been able to offer this governance and this control and the experience on a one-to-one Kafka basis. So if you have 3 Kafkas, you have 3 lenses. If you have 300 Kafkas, you need 300 lenses. So we can start seeing what the trouble is here. With 6.0, we are aiming to solve this problem. We've codenamed it Panoptis after the ancient Greek epic of Ulysses and the giant who had eyes all over him. So Panoptis is that giant. Our version 6 is going to be our Panoptis, the lenses that has all eyes, or the all-seeing eyes that can understand all your Kafkas at once. So even if you have 300 or 1,000 Kafkas, you only need 1 lenses. And of course, that opens up the opportunities for tons of new features and value. First, of course, is that you can finally understand across the board, across all of your Kafkas, whether they are in different departments or different tiers, what's happening between development, staging, and production. Is there something in production that was never promoted through development and staging? All these things are up for grabs now. It allows us to offer data exploration in a unified way across all your Kafkas, so you don't have to know, oh, I need to log into my red department lenses to find red things. You can just search in one place. But then it opens the door to facilitating cross-Kafka operations. What we've been hearing a lot, people struggling, especially once they start having more than one Kafka in their production, is how do they safely share certain topics from one Kafka to the other, this cluster linking. With lenses, we hope that you will offer the best way to achieve this, regardless of where your infrastructure is. If you have a managed Kafka, great. If you have managed an on-prem, that's great too. Doesn't matter. Lenses will be able to orchestrate and make these Kafka to Kafka operations fully automated and with full governance and access. And speaking of governance, as we're entering to this multi-Kafka world, we want to be native to the concept of many Kafkas. So we are doing complete revamp of our permission model, so that you can express what a team can do across all your Kafkas. At the same time, you'll be able to be much more granular and fine-tuned on exactly what a team can do. To give an example, a realistic one that we've heard from many customers is an emerging type of user, which is usually a support user, which we call the application operator. People in production, certain teams are given specific tasks to monitor only applications and be able to stop and start them. This is a very kind of granular type of permission with 6.0 you'll be able to express. You'll be able to say, for example, this particular team should be able to only start and stop certain connectors in certain environments, or even all connectors in all environments. You can mix and match. So all these capabilities and more coming with 6.0 in Q4. And yeah, we're very excited, and we hope that you're going to love it. So over to you, Alex.
Yeah, thanks, Adamos, and thanks, Guillaume, as well, for kicking us off. If you're not already using lenses, please try lenses for free by heading to lenses.io/start. You can download the Lenses box, which is an all-in-one local host Kafka Docker with the Lenses developer experience built into it. Or you can request a trial of Lenses developer experience and connectors with your Kafka cluster too. Please also, if you go to the next slide, join our Slack community. So this is where you can speak to all of us on the Lenses team and also the wider community, contribute to discussions about the product and the ecosystem, and hear what's happening in our world. We also have our community channel for support for more Lenses specific questions called Ask Marius. So you can head there for any questions you have about lenses. And finally, I think we have our Kafka live stream, which is our weekly 30-minute call about how to simplify Kafka through lenses. So if you haven't already registered for Kafka live stream, our next session will be next Thursday, and we'll be talking about single message transformation there. So single message transforms, sorry. So please register. You'll find the link in the chat, and we'd love to see you on the call next Thursday. And I believe that's it. I think we have a bit of time. So if we have time for more Q&A, then let's take some questions. And when is 5.5 available?
Yes, let me type it here.
So we'll share the link with you, Anand, for you to download the Lenses box.
I'll put it on the chat.
Yeah, thank you.
For everyone to see. There.
Okay. If there are no more questions, then we'll leave it there and we'll wish you a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much for joining, for your time. This has been our webinar to announce 5.5 and all the great stuff we've got coming up in our product roadmap over the coming months. So thank you very much for joining. Thanks to Adamos. Thanks to you, Guillaume. Thanks to everyone on the Lenses team as well that I know is joining and has worked really hard on the features that we've been talking about today. So yeah, have a great weekend, everyone. Happy Friday.
Yeah, congratulations on the release. Thanks everyone. Fantastic session. Have a great weekend. If you're already stopping now, or for those with a few more hours, yeah, good luck, and please speak to you soon.
Thanks, everyone.